My ex-wife burned my ID to travel with her lover. I departed that evening but left something behind. It started with the smell of burning plastic. Not the sharp, bitter scent of garbage fire, something smaller, more specific, something intentional. At first, I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe something in the kitchen had shorted out, or maybe the neighbor was burning trash again. But then I saw her through the sliding glass door, standing on the back porch with the lighter in her hand and my wallet open like she was rifling through a dead man's belongings. She was barefoot like always, standing in that careless way. She had one foot tucked behind the other, posture relaxed, like nothing ever surprised her. Her hair was tied back with one of my old bandanas. She used to wear it when she helped me paint the spare room yellow, the one we never turned into anything. I watched from the threshold, invisible like a shadow in my own house. She didn't see me yet, or maybe she did. Maybe that was the point. The flame caught on the corner of my driver's license first. The plastic blistered before it burned. It curled up at the edges like it was ashamed of itself, trying to disappear. I saw my face, younger, smiling, ridiculous, shrink and blacken and turn to ash in her fingers. I don't know what I was expecting. Maybe a fight, maybe tears, maybe her to turn around, startled, and say, "God, I didn't mean for you to see that." But she didn't flinch. She just dropped the burning card into the little metal bowl she used for incense and watched it smolder. That bowl was a gift. I brought it back from a work trip to Santa Fe. She said it looked like something a desert witch would own, and she loved it. That was 4 years ago. We were different people then. I thought she'd keep it forever. I guess she did. When she finally turned around, she met my eyes like she'd been waiting for me. "I couldn't find your passport," she said. Her voice was calm, almost apologetic. "So I burned your ID." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. "What the hell do you say to that?" She looked past me toward the kitchen like maybe she wanted a drink. Then she lit a cigarette from the same lighter and took a long drag. Her hands didn't shake. Mine did. He was out front. I'd seen the car when I pulled into the driveway. Parked just far enough to be polite, but close enough to say this is happening. I didn't know his name. I never asked. I'd seen him twice before. Once when he came to fix her bike chain, and once when I caught them in the garage standing too close, talking too softly. I told myself I was being paranoid. That was months ago. The house was still whole then. We were still playing pretend. "You don't have to make it ugly," she said, like we were negotiating a real estate deal, not dismantling a marriage. "I'm not the one lighting things on fire," I said. My voice sounded far away, like it was coming from someone else's mouth. She looked down at the ashes in the bowl and shrugged. "You would have followed me, you always do." There was no cruelty in her tone. That was the worst part. It wasn't personal, it was just true. I thought about all the times I'd tried to hold us together. The therapy appointments I made and she skipped. The quiet nights I lay next to her, listening to her breathe, pretending the silence was comfortable. The trip to Asheville where I bought her that ceramic mug she broke a week later without saying sorry. The way I'd find her staring out the window like the horizon was whispering to her, calling her somewhere else. I'd known, not the specifics, but I'd known. It wasn't like she packed a bag in the night and vanished. She'd been leaving me for years, in pieces, in gestures, in the way she stopped laughing at my jokes. The first time she said she didn't believe in marriage anymore, we were standing in line at the grocery store. She said it like she was talking about astrology or politics, like it was a theory, not a confession. "It's not that I don't love you," she said now. "I just can't stay." I almost laughed. Love, that word felt too big for what we were now and too small for what we used to be. "I don't know how to be with someone who's always disappearing," I said. The words came out rough, pulled from someplace deep. "I'm not disappearing, I'm just going." She flicked ash into the bowl like a priest performing some sacrament. Smoke curled around her face, softening the edges. For a second, I remembered what it felt like to touch her cheek in the morning when she was still half asleep and kind. "Where are you going?" I asked. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted her to lie to me. Mexico, she said. For a while, we'll see. There it was, confirmation, plain as sunlight. I looked down at my hands. They were clenched into fists, not from anger, from fear. I didn't know who I was without her. I'd spent so long orbiting her moods, her dreams, her endless hunger for something more. Without her, I was just a body in a room. A man with no ID, no anchor, no one waiting. I walked past her without saying anything, into the house, through the kitchen which still smelled like burnt toast from this morning, past the fridge where that photo still hung, the one from the Oregon trip. She was wearing my hoodie. We were both sunburned, grinning like idiots, high on salt air and bad coffee. I almost took it down. I reached for it, fingers hovering over the edge, but something in me pulled back. I let it stay. I wanted it to haunt her. Upstairs, I shoved a change of clothes into my backpack, a toothbrush, a pair of socks I'd forgotten I liked. I stared at the drawer with my important documents. Empty. She hadn't lied about the passport. It was gone. I thought about calling someone, my brother maybe, or Pete from work, but what would I say? She burned my ID and left me for a man with a better sense of direction. It sounded like a joke. It felt like a dream. One of those slow, underwater dreams where you try to run and your legs won't move. Back downstairs, she was standing by the door, not blocking it, just there. "You'll figure it out," she said. Her voice was soft, like a lullaby, like mercy. I nodded once, not because I believed her, but because I needed to leave. I stepped outside. The air was thick with late summer heat. Crickets chirped like nothing had happened. His car idled quietly in the driveway, and I could see his silhouette through the windshield, eyes forward, hands on the wheel, the picture of restraint. I didn't look back. I started the car, drove until the sun started to bleed into the sky. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't care. I just needed motion. I needed the wind in my face and the road under my wheels to remind me I was still here, still breathing, still mine somehow. But I left that photo behind on purpose. I needed her to see it, needed her to look at our stupid, sunburned smiles and feel something, anything. Guilt, regret, nostalgia, I didn't care what. I just needed her to remember that once she loved me, and once I thought it would be enough. The first night I slept in the car, or more accurately, I didn't sleep at all. I parked behind a shuttered diner just off the interstate, the kind of place where the windows are still covered in old sun-bleached flyers advertising Thursday meatloaf specials and $2 milkshakes. The neon sign above the roof still buzzed faintly, even though half the letters were dead. All that was left was INER, humming like a half-remembered name. I kept the driver's seat reclined as far as it would go. My spine protested every angle. I wrapped a hoodie around my shoulders and stared up through the windshield at the orange glow of the streetlight. Moths battered themselves against it over and over, looking for meaning in something that would never love them back. I felt like that, like I'd been drawn to her light for years and never noticed I was burning up. There's something disorienting about losing everything quietly. No shouting match, no packed suitcases on the lawn. Just one moment you're a husband and the next you're a man without an ID, without a home, without a name that means anything to anyone. At one point in the night, I got out and paced in the parking lot, gravel crunching under my boots just to feel the ground. I stared at my reflection in the diner window, smeared, shadowed, and didn't recognize myself. My eyes looked hollow, like they'd been borrowed from someone else. The second night was colder. I woke up shivering. I had turned off the car to save gas, and in the middle of the night, I started wondering if I'd ever really belonged anywhere. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe she didn't leave me so much as she escaped. I didn't eat until the third day. I bought a gas station sandwich I couldn't taste and drank lukewarm coffee that made my stomach ache. There's a quiet humiliation in eating alone in a parking lot, dipping stale bread into mustard with your fingers because you forgot to grab napkins. I kept checking my phone even though there was no one to call. The silence wasn't loud, it was dense. Like fog, like static, like a pressure that builds in your chest until you forget what it's like to breathe without it. I don't remember how I ended up in that town. I just drove until I couldn't anymore. The highway signs blurred into meaningless symbols. There was a laundromat with a glowing open sign that felt like a lifeline, and I parked out front, not because I had clothes to wash, but because it looked like it had warmth and maybe running water. That's where I met Jill. She was sitting on top of a dryer, eating an apple and reading a worn paperback. Her boots were heavy, scuffed, laced halfway up her calves. She looked like someone who didn't flinch easy. I stood there for a second, not sure what I was doing, then went to the vending machine and pretended to care about candy bars. I guess I looked like hell because she asked, without looking up, "You running from something or just lost?" I blinked. Is there a difference? That made her smile just a little. She tucked her book into her bag and hopped off the dryer like she'd been waiting for the right moment to come back to earth. "Name Jill," she said, like we were already old friends. I told her mine, and the sound of it felt strange in my mouth, like I was introducing a character I used to play. We didn't talk much that day. I gave her my last granola bar and she handed me a bottle of water. No small talk, no pity, just this silent agreement between two people who understood what it meant to carry the weight of their own wreckage. That night, she let me sleep on her couch. She didn't ask why, just tossed me a blanket and said, "Bathrooms down the hall, don't steal anything." Her apartment was small, cluttered with books and empty coffee mugs and mismatched furniture that looked like it had stories. There was a painting on the wall of a fox curled up beneath a dying sun. I asked her if she painted it. She said no, her ex did. Then she rolled her eyes and added, "He's in a cult now, figures." The couch smelled like incense and cat hair, but it was heaven compared to my car. I lay there in the dark, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the occasional creak of pipes in the walls, and for the first time in days I let myself cry. Not a dramatic, cinematic cry, just slow tears that slid down my cheeks and soaked into the pillow. The kind of crying that doesn't need sound, just gravity. I stayed longer than I meant to. A few days turned into 2 weeks, then 3. Jill never pushed. I started helping around the apartment, taking out the trash, fixing a leaking faucet, buying groceries with what little cash I scraped together, unloading trucks at a nearby warehouse. The job was brutal. I liked it. My body hurt at the end of every shift, and that pain grounded me, gave me a reason to sleep, to eat, to exist. I started collecting the receipts from every meal, every tank of gas, every little thing I paid for. I kept them in an envelope, my proof of life. Some people keep journals. I kept receipts. Jill taught me how to make soup from scratch. She said cooking something slowly teaches patience. We chopped carrots and potatoes in silence, and when the broth started to bubble, she handed me a spoon and said, "Now stir, don't stop, stir like your life depends on it." It became a ritual: soup nights, beer on the floor, silence that wasn't empty but safe. We never talked about the people who broke us. There was no need. You can see it in someone's eyes, that quiet devastation that doesn't need language. I didn't tell her about the ID, not at first. I didn't know how to explain that someone could erase you with fire and a shrug. But eventually I did. One night, after 2 beers and a long silence, I said, "She burned my ID so I couldn't follow her." Jill didn't flinch, just nodded slowly and said, "That's cold." And that was enough. That was everything. I still didn't know who I was without her. Without the shape of her back in our bed, without the scent of her shampoo on the pillow, without the sound of her laughter in some other room I couldn't enter anymore. But in Jill's apartment, with soup bubbling on the stove and my body aching from labor, I started to believe that maybe I didn't have to figure it all out yet. Maybe it was enough for now just to be, just to breathe and stir and sleep and wake up and do it all again. No destination, no answers, just motion, just breath, just life in its smallest, most fragile form. And maybe, just maybe, that was a kind of survival. It came at me sideways, like most things do when you're not ready but somehow always are. I didn't plan it. I wasn't sitting around waiting for the past to catch up. But it did, like it always does, in the smallest, dumbest, quietest way. I was trying to sign up for a gym membership. That's the stupid part. I wanted to do something good for myself, maybe get back some feeling in my limbs, reinhabit my own skin. I hadn't moved in a meaningful way in weeks unless you counted hauling boxes at the warehouse. I was tired of the stiffness, the knots, the way my shoulders felt like they'd been holding up the sky. The kid behind the counter, too young, too cheerful, too eager to help, asked for my ID. I froze. It was just a second, but in that second I remembered everything. Not the fire itself, that was easy to remember, always sitting there like a splinter under my skin, but the moment right after. The silence. The bowl, the look on her face, not cruel, just done, finished, like closing the cover on a book she didn't care how it ended. "Sorry," I said, "I don't have one right now." He raised an eyebrow but didn't press. Probably figured I lost it or left it at home, but I saw the flicker of doubt, like maybe I wasn't real. I walked out without signing up, didn't even say goodbye, just stepped into the cold air and let the door hiss shut behind me. My hands were shaking, stupidly. I jammed them into my pockets and started walking. Fast, no destination, just movement, like if I kept walking fast enough I'd outrun whatever had just cracked open inside me. I ended up 3 miles away in front of a payphone that still worked for some reason. The kind with the cord half chewed and graffiti scrawled all over it. I didn't have anyone to call, but I picked up the receiver anyway, pressed it to my ear and listened to the dial tone, that flat, empty hum. I listened to it for what felt like hours. It reminded me of her voice, steady, impersonal, just enough life in it to fool you. I went home. Jill wasn't there. She'd taken a weekend trip to see a friend in Portland. I dropped onto the couch, stared at the ceiling, and thought about the shoebox. I'd kept it under the bed like a secret. I hadn't looked inside since I left. Part of me forgot what I packed in there. I pulled it out slowly, set it on the floor, and opened it like it might explode. Inside, a copy of our marriage license. The concert ticket from that show we saw in Nashville, the one where she cried during the encore and I kissed the salt off her cheek. A receipt from a diner we ate at on our 3rd anniversary with her scribbled note in the corner. You, me, always. And that damn photo from the fridge, the one I thought I left behind. I must have grabbed it when I was half out of my mind, stuffing things into my backpack. Or maybe she slipped it in, a final breadcrumb, I'll never know. I laid them out on the floor like evidence, like I was trying to build a case against myself, prove that I existed, that we did, that it wasn't all a hallucination. But the longer I stared, the more the details warped. The photo didn't look romantic anymore. We looked tired. She was leaning into me, but there was a kind of space in her eyes, this quiet absence I'd missed before. I'd thought she looked happy. Maybe I just wanted her to. And that note, you, me, always, I remembered the way she'd said it playfully over eggs and burnt toast with one sock halfway off. It had sounded eternal then. Now it just sounded young, delusional. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the quiet, maybe it was the shoebox, maybe it was the stupid gym moment finally catching up with me, but I said it, out loud, into the empty apartment, into the space between the floorboards, into the air that no longer carried her scent. You hurt me. The words felt small, inadequate, but they shook something loose. My throat closed up, my stomach twisted. I wanted to scream or smash something or crawl inside myself and stay there. Instead, I lit a match. Just one. I didn't know why. I'd bought the matches weeks ago, back when I first left. I thought maybe I'd burn something too, even the score, but I never did. The flame flickered in my hand, warm and alive and temporary. I let it burn down to my skin before dropping it into the sink. I could have burned the whole box, the photo, the license, all of it, but I didn't need to. The fire had already happened. The wreckage wasn't in paper or plastic. It was in me. That night, I curled up on Jill's couch, knees to chest like a child. I watched the shadows shift across the ceiling and thought about who I used to be. A man who apologized too much, who shrank himself to fit her moods, who mistook silence for peace, who thought loving someone meant losing yourself piece by piece until there was nothing left to abandon. I don't hate her. I don't even think she meant to do it the way she did. I think she thought she was freeing me. Maybe she was. But I still dream about the porch, the lighter, the way her fingers looked in the firelight. I still wake up reaching for something I'll never get back. And yet, for the first time, I'm not running from it. I'm not pretending. I'm not waiting for her voice to fill the silence or for some revelation to make sense of it all. It happened. It's mine. All of it. And I'm still here. Some mornings I wake up before the sun. No alarm, no reason, just eyes open, breath caught in my chest, heart moving slow like it forgot what it's supposed to do. I lie there in the soft gray light and listen to the old pipes rattle through the walls of this upstairs room above Hector's bike shop. Sometimes I think I'm hearing her breathing next to me. Sometimes I reach out, but there's just the empty space and the whisper of air moving through the cracked window. It's been 4 months. I don't measure it in time, not really. I measure it in small rituals, how long it took me to buy a new toothbrush, the first time I caught myself humming while cooking, the moment I realized I hadn't thought about her for a whole afternoon and didn't feel guilty for it. This place, it's nothing special. A mattress on the floor, a tiny bathroom with tiles that never quite come clean, a hot plate and a window that faces east. But it's mine, every inch of it. I paid for the second-hand dresser myself, carried it up the stairs in 2 trips, built the bookshelf with wood Hector gave me from the shop's scrap pile. I keep it half empty. I like the space. I like that I don't have to fill it all at once. I work part-time at the bike shop now. Hector doesn't talk much, which suits me. He lets me tinker in the back, changing tubes, tuning chains, cleaning gears until my hands ache and the world shrinks down to nothing but metal and grease and breath. Sometimes he'll hand me a sandwich without saying a word. Sometimes he'll nod and say, "Good work today. That's enough. That's more than enough." There's a cat that lives in the alley behind the shop. I started feeding it leftover tuna a few weeks ago. Now it waits for me every morning, tail twitching, eyes sharp. I haven't named it. I don't want to own anything I can't hold. But it comes back, and there's something in that, the quiet, reliable return of a living thing. It's more comforting than I expected. I haven't seen Jill since she left for Portland. She texted once, a photo of a bookstore she thought I'd like. I stared at it for 10 minutes before I could figure out what to say. I ended up just sending a thumbs up. She didn't reply. That was fine. We gave each other what we had and we let it be enough. I still carry the shoebox. Not with me, it's tucked away in the bottom drawer of the dresser. I haven't opened it since that night. But I don't need to burn it anymore. I don't need to throw it out either. It's a scar. You don't erase scars. You learn to run your fingers over them and say, yes, this is part of me now. Some nights I sit at the window and drink black coffee and watch the town wake up. Kids waiting for school buses. Shopkeepers unlocking doors. Sunlight crawling down the sides of buildings like it's testing the air. There's a stillness to it that I never noticed before. It used to make me anxious, that kind of quiet. Now I find myself reaching for it, protecting it like a flame in the wind. I haven't replaced my ID yet. I probably should, but there's something about not being tied to a number, a barcode, a face frozen in time. It's stupid, I know. I'll get to it. Eventually. For now, I carry my name in the way I move through rooms, in the small kindnesses I offer, in the quiet decisions I make when no one's watching. And I think I'm okay with that. The other day I bought a new notebook, not to journal, I'm still terrible at that, but to keep track of things I want to remember. A poem I saw on a bathroom wall, the taste of ginger in homemade soup, a dream where I was running through a field and no one was chasing me. I wrote something down the other night, just a sentence, but it felt like the truth. I am learning to be gentle with myself, even when the world is not. It's not a resolution. It's not a transformation. There's no grand moment where I rise from the ashes, glowing and whole. That's a fantasy. Healing doesn't look like that. It looks like this. Standing in a kitchen with mismatched tiles, stirring soup while the radio hums in the background. It looks like paying rent on time. It looks like learning how to fix a chain without pinching your fingers. It looks like laughing once randomly and realizing you meant it. I don't know what comes next, but for the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid of the blank space ahead of me. I'm not trying to fill it. I'm not waiting for someone to give it meaning. I'm just here. Alive. Still a little lost but moving. Still me, or maybe more myself than I've ever been.